Yo, this build is broken as hell and definitely should and probably will be nerfed before 3.27 actually drops. However, this budget build does feature over 20 million DPS, over 12k max fizz hit and 40k max elemental hit, energy shield, overleach, ailment immunity, a permanent 24% chill, great quality of life, almost no suffix pressure, and all this with gear on a personal level I would aspire to have somewhere between the 8 and 10 hour mark in an SC trade league start. I think it's absolutely broken, and it's because of two primary things. Now the first thing that probably needs nerf is this Lycia Bloodline node called Farewell to Flesh, which gives your Herald skills 2% more buff effect per 1 mana reservation they have. In my particular setup, I'm reserving 88% of my total mana, 44% each for Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice. So that's, just back it up, 88% more buff effect, which is just absolutely insane, because that's for each Herald, not just one. And the second thing that's really OP is Kinetic Rain. I'm sure you guys have already seen this and other content creators talk about it, but it's just absolutely broken. If this skill even overlaps twice, it is the de facto best single target wand skill in the game right now. And it hits, probably a lot more than that on big targets. So we'll see how these things get adjusted. That said, let's get into the build. I don't think it's going to survive, but there's tons of cool, interesting tech, and a lot of intuitive build making things I think you can apply for yourself and other build concepts for early league starters. So I want to talk about the core Herald tech, and I saw this when I woke up this morning on Ruetoo's stream, and it's basically using Herald of Thunder, Herald of Ice, and scaling up that level as much as possible, throwing that in a budget helmet called Honor Home, and he suggests using Viridia's Veil later, but that's really expensive. Going for Corruption here, and then throwing in Empower to increase that reservation cost. Elemental Focus to increase that cost further, because we do need to balance the cost against Bringer of Ruin on the Elementalist. I also take one additional note here, so you do have some mana to cast. You could alternatively play Eldritch Battery, and then have a bit more damage from that, but I do think it's worth playing mana so you can have an energy shield set up. That's the core there. It's really, really crazy because I think all in all, when you do this baseline setup, you have something like 4 times more Herald effect, and you can scale your Herald levels so easily. Replica Alpha's How also exists, and there's also these crazy tattoos giving you 5% increased effective Herald buffs, and a medium cluster jewel for increased Herald effect. So there's all these kinds of things that are really making kind of Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder, Source of Flat, really powerful. And again, for wand skills, the thing that you need most, I would say, is flat damage. It's what makes strength stackers and instackers for Wanderers good late, because that actually provides access to that without sacrificing much else. The second thing that this also needs is Essence Form, because you do need to increase that cost. Now, for a lot of builds, this is kind of annoying to run because obviously it disables your other auras, because, auras are really strong, but for this particular build, it's 2 Heralds, and then I'm actually opting for Purity of Elements. People would suggest things like Wrath. I don't think you really need that. Purity of Elements for this particular setup, especially in the league start, it's really great. You don't have element immunity easily anyways, and I think, it just opens up a lot of suffix pressure, and I think Wrath in here gives like 20%-ish more damage, so it's not something really powerful anyways. Grace, Determ, Hatred, and Haste, Flesh and Stone, Discipline. There's a lot of defensive options to consider as well, but because of how I've set up the rest of the build, PoE just fits really well into it. Now, the second thing, I guess let's move on to the Ascendancy. Elementalist. Elementalist is actually a great node, 4, 5, 6 node Ascendancy, unlike other Ascendancies. However, the 3 node power is unmatched for this particular build. Bringer of Ruin is just, super, super crazy, giving that 22%, and also helps balance things out. The Golem things are insane for wands. It gives you accuracy, it gives you Flame Golem AoE when you want to switch and connect Blast for better clearing, and it speaks for itself, actually, honestly. And then Shaper of Storms, I think, for this is really great. So playing with this against Warden, I found that Shaper of Storms was generally more consistent for shock application in general. The tree itself on this thing is fairly... I think you'll see a lot of this on the early Wanderers. Some people opt for entirely topside. I think that's generally a mistake because those builds, unless they get a ton of, really large pool, basically, they will kind of feel a little scuffed on defenses, at least for an Elementalist, let's say. But basically I path through the spell damage. I go through here and grab a Timeless Shield. Don't worry, Timeless Shields are insanely easy to farm, especially in a Wanderer league where, everyone's playing wands and farming Legion. Thanks, Fub. And then grabbing some just generic wand stuff over here. I do opt for this Chill Cold Mastery. I like 24% chill a lot. It makes every boss encounter feel much, much, much more manageable. I go for Inversion Mastery, although I do have exposure for single target with Hydrosphere, but not while clearing. There's no Spell Singer setup available here because you don't want to, have too much mana unreserved for your heralds. Pathing down here, I do go for a cluster jewel. The most important thing on this cluster is to get Storm Drinker. The reason I want Storm Drinker on this build is because there's not actually a lot of sources of attack-based energy leech. I don't want to run the ES leech support since that's been nerfed. But I do want to have hybrid leech. because I'm going to take damage from both pools, and I want to be able to recover both pools very easily. I go for a little bit of instant leech on this mastery, and then I have life leech from here, mana leech from here, and then ES leech from here, and then I'm able to actually have over leech because I have less evasion than energy shield. And Ghost Town says that you cannot recover your energy shield to above evasion rating. In practice, and this is like old tech that I stole from Ben once upon a time in a previous gauntlet, and then it's become really popular since then. You keep your evasion below this, and then because you're never able to recover to full ES, it just counts as, the game's thinking, oh, I'm keep trying to, drink from that leech pool to recover your energy shield, and it just won't work, and it just keeps on going. So basically, you have ES over leech. Really, really great. I noticed just how good this was when I did a recent wand run with both an Elementalist and a Necro Wander, so when available, I really would go for this. Now, this tree by itself is usually pretty squishy, all things considered, but when you have these two items, Honor Home and Essence Worm, it really pushes you to play for this chest. I think Utila's Hunger is one of the best League Start chests available, especially when you're not playing with a really strong Necrotic, especially when you don't want to play Chaos Inoculation in the early game. It is actually crazy. Now, it's a little bit on the rare side, but the nice thing is that it's really not in demand. So if I look at, I don't know, over here, go to EOE, Ninja, and we go to Economy, and we go to our unique armors over here. We go to Utila's Hunger. We can see that, and we stretch all the way out. Even on day one, it's like a 2 to 3 to 5 chaos unique. This thing costs basically nothing at all times. Yes, you have to pay for the cost of linking, and yes, coloring can be difficult, but that's actually one of the reasons why I went for a really, I guess, suboptimal DPS coloring setup, where I play 3 red, 3 blue. So you just like force 3 blue and call it a day. You'll probably end up with 3 reds in your other ones, or you can go 2 blue and see what you end up with. But yeah, I mean, Cruelty is also another viable support, but I do like to have at least 2 blue for both your main skill, which will be Kinetic Rain in this case, and Sacred Wisps. So yeah, that's really, really crazy too. The rest of the uniques, so Honor Home I've already mentioned. Looking for a Corruption here. Whichever ones fit both Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder both work. Essence Worm, again, super cheap uniques. Shout out Ruetoo, thanks again. Our build is just fantastic all the time. I'm actually really excited to see what he builds with this before it gets nerfed by Wednesday. And then a GV. On the GV, I'm looking for, I guess, a bunch of things. If you don't hit Temple Path, you could just take Suppression Nodes. But the most important thing is Doriani. A lot of flexibility here, but the Doriani node is just absolutely insane. It also lets me hit the Overleech thing without having to, I don't know, struggle too much. Now, I can get a bit more evasion this to feel a bit better about the pool, but yeah, that's that. And you can see that rare gearing-wise, it's actually really easy for this character because I'm not struggling hard at all. I do have a wand that has no flat damage on it. Next patch, I imagine that we'll be using Woe Essences to craft on suffixes, so attack speed and crit chance, and then bench crafting the final. Shield, I'm looking for suppression, and then a increased evasion ES prefix with crafted block chance. I mean, that sort of EHP mitigation from block is pretty good. You could also run Rumi's Concoction while mapping. Gloves, most importantly, just Rage Implicit and suppression. Again, all the suppression can be comped with Pathing Instinct on the tree, but, I mean, this doesn't look that crazy to me. That's yeah. Just another piece of gear. Move, speed, suppression, boots with 1 res. Benchcraft, non-damaging elements if you can. Otherwise, you can just benchcraft resistances or, yeah. Amulet, multi, spell damage, accuracy, elemental damage attacks, res, attributes, whatever it may be. But you can see, again, not super crazy. For the ring, you grab an I-84 ring, throw it into Harvest, reforge Chaos a couple times until you get another paired resistance, and then craft on this. The nice thing, none of these gear pieces need life. And I have 4.5k life, which is almost more than every single softcore league starter that you'll see. And then finally, Crystal Bell, just give you a little bit of extra ES. I think right now it's actually not that important, but yeah. The flask setup, I just want to mention one thing. A Surgeon's Diamond Flask as a standalone flask charge on crit flask is really good. This is your only real offensive single target flask, and that Surgeon mod flask charge when you deal a critical strike, that gain is actually global. And it's actually capped out at, I think, 10 charges per second. So if you have that on multiple flasks, it'll make it so that it's spread out. But if you have it all in one flask, every single critical strike that could generate a flask charge will feed into this one flask. So that's why we just have it here. So yeah, I mean, that's the build. We can talk about the gem setup, I guess. I mean, this is this. Asmark, Frostblink. Shield Charge, Faster Attacks, Culling Strike is optional. The Herald setup I've gone over already with 2 things to increase the cost of each of the Heralds. For single target, Arcanist Brand, Frost Shield, Hydrosphere, and Sigil. Basically, just press your Arcanist Brand on a single target, and then these things all pop up, and then you just stand inside of there. Because you have ES Overleach, Frost Shield doesn't feel that bad. Because you have Mana Leech, Sigil of Power is very easy to generate, and you're going to just be attacking all the time. A 4 Golem setup is incredibly good, and then lastly, Period of Elements in the ring. Really straightforward build, very, very efficient to do. I mean, if it makes it through to League Start, this is probably one of the best League Starts you can do. But it's probably gonna get nerfed because honestly, that Herald stacking stuff is absolutely nonsense. I hope it goes. I can't wait to show you guys what I really plan to play soon.